Hey, this is Jason J. Lewis, Superman from Justice League Action, and you're watching SuperWonder Legacy.
You're strong.
I know.
Are you a sight for sore eyes?
It's nice to have someone who likes you for being you.
It's okay. I've got you now.
Just like in the movies.
Welcome to SuperWonder Legacy. I am Jared. I am here with Britt. What's up, Britt?
Hello, hello.
And today, first off, shout out to NJ for recommending we do the topic on Wonder Woman's World's Finest, and now the concept of that. And this is kind of part two of like a very early episode of the show that you and I did on the Trinity. But it's like, this is something that's been a long time coming. And by the way, first off, before we get started, shout out to Jason Lewis for recording a dope intro for us. Thanks,
Yes.
brother. So let's So here's the thing. World's Finest is a concept that has existed for like a fair amount of time and it relates to like Superman and Batman. But it's like the thing about the concept, and it's like particularly for like, let's say the Trinity, because the Trinity is supposed to be like, oh, the Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, but not enough people realize how like artificial and how recent the Trinity is, right?
Exactly. They think that, oh, this has been a trio since pre-crisis, and no, it has not been. It has been the world's finest since pre-crisis. You know, you had Batman, Superman, well, I would say Superman, Batman, and Robin.
Mm-hmm.
Wonder Woman, she has always been a third wheel or background in a sense. Maybe even the token, you know, girl on the team for the Justice League. Really, until I would say, I wouldn't even say Morrison's run. I wouldn't say that. Hmm. Maybe New 52. She was still the token girl, but she took lead in certain instances and stood out for better or worse, mostly worse because of Jeff Johns' writing, but she still had a presence. As far as team ups, you really don't have that with Diana. And then they tried to have her with the Justice League Dark, but that's really like Zatanna and Constantine, Deadman, that sort of group. And what they had to do was change Diana to where she had this witch mark and she had some type of witchy powers, which has never been her. So if you have to change Diana to fit into a mold, honestly, it shouldn't be. You should not have to change her. If anything, it should be you're putting her somewhere, that revolves around her and that changes because of her.
Yeah, exactly. But and it's like the thing about this is, and so with the World's Finest, the thing about it is obviously it makes sense. Like Batman and Superman would be like partners because they were like the first two DC superheroes. But it's like with Wonder Woman, she's one of those characters that is primed to have like a World's Finest partnership. And it's funny, Britt, didn't they kind of give her a World's Finest book in a certain era that you and I absolutely adore? That's a book that's
Exactly.
inspired a interesting little podcast that we're recording right at this moment.
Right. I mean, if you want to say that's her world finest, of course. But being, with her best friend, with a man who is written, to be someone that she trusts the most, understands her, and they have this special bond, pun intended. Um, that yeah, and being a power couple, that is something that is so powerful in a sense of, a positive outlook on whether it is platonic or romantic, it's still a bond between um equality within the genders, basically.
That's why they should have a Superman Wonder Woman book like now. And again, not like Britt said, not saying it has to be romantic, because I get it if there's certain editorial agendas that they don't want, or certain pesky creators, but it's more like just because imagine this, the story potential, because I know DC cares about story potential, and that's important. That's important, of Wonder Woman partnering up platonically with the man that is the complete refutation of everything the Amazons believed about men. Imagine that. And Wonder Woman frames it as, this proves that coexistence between the Amazons and man's world is possible.
Exactly. I mean, you have so much groundwork there. You have Clark and Diana bonding over being, these outsiders, even within the Justice League, within their own worlds. And then you have Clark be the embodiment exactly of the total opposite of what Amazons think, men with or of power should be or is. He's the antithesis, he's the anti of that, and anti Zeus and Hercules, or any, you know, idea of a misogynist or a sexist, anything like that. He is the total opposite. And it has always been shown how supportive he is of Diana, that it's not that Superman overshadows Diana, he is her support.
Yeah.
He is always, advocating for her, written to, and it was especially emphasized in the Perez run, which any Wonder Woman fan sets that as the golden standard. And to ignore that big part of Diana, you're just being kind of ignorant and a little childish, because for Diana's character growth and experience, again, whether it's, that romantic rush, that infatuation, that crush that she had for Clark, it was mutual. At least it was mutual. And it was something that for them to experience together, whether it lasts to be a blossoming relationship that, like I said, lasts long, or it's something of an experience, and that on and off, maybe we should, maybe it's right person, wrong time type thing, or they were together, decided, to break up for a minute or so, get back together, things like that. Their relationship is multifaceted, and what we love about that is that you can put their relationship in different scenarios, and it has that same theme, ongoing themes of just this love and support and understanding.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like the thing about it is like, it's, yeah, if you look at like the Charles Sewell book, even, it's like Clark never once, this is how I know a lot of people on Twitter haven't read that book, when they mentioned about the Superman Wonder Woman relationship led to Wonder Woman just being Clark's girlfriend. Because it's like, when you look at that book, Diana saved his ass so many times. Like, even when he's getting his ass kicked by Zon Feor, Wonder Woman shows up and goes, please put him down, he's mine. And it's like, that's how you really did, that's the beauty of their relationship. Or it's like, let's say when he was turning into Doomsday, Wonder Woman was there to talk him down and like tell him, you can beat this. And I'm like, yeah, that's the beauty of Diana. That's why I love Wonder Woman, because yes, she's a warrior and she's powerful, and she can take out the entire Justice League if she wanted to. Yes, this is true. If you read Greg Rucka's Wonder Woman, she fought them blindfolded. But it's like, when you deal with like Wonder Woman, it's like her empathy is unmatched. It's like what I always say, when I said Last Amazon Answers, when I talked about the Orlando run. Because the thing about Wonder Woman is, I wouldn't be surprised if someone eventually gives her like a sort of voice power where like she calms people by her voice, because that's one of the things I know she's always able to do. It's like she seems to always have the right thing to say.
Exactly. I mean, that is pretty much, her second job as an ambassador of peace. She is supposed to be that voice of the people or that voice of reason, the moral compass, not to play den mother or therapist or, being or nurse, that some people think that she's supposed to be. No, it's just she guides people, you know, but she's not there to handhold man children.
Oh yeah, exactly. Looking at you, Batman. So let's talk about why the Trinity concept is not really that beneficial. Because again, I mean, if you want to talk about about Wonder Woman being reduced to Superman's girlfriend, okay, but how about the Trinity, which just resorts her to being the girl that hangs out with Batman and Superman?
Exactly. It is so superficial because we don't get Diana's perspective at all. She is always there to, I would say, in a sense, prop up Clark and Bruce, but they never give her her flowers. In a sense, you never get their perspective on her. The only time you really got that perspective, where the concept originated from, well, actually, the concept originated from Kingdom Come,
Yeah.
and that essentially is not even them. It's basically them as old people, knowing that life has hit them like a 18-wheeler, and you know they've gotten a reality check, and they're coming together to make amends. But for a lengthy part of the story, they were at odds. They weren't really friends like that, and then you just have that moment where they are supposed to be now this family because they now understand each other just because of the tragedy that happened. Pretty much trauma bonding. And Diana, of course, honors Batman of making him the Godfather. And that the one notion that I'm not too keen on is that, well, Clark and Diana will be isolated, so they need, Batman to train their kid to have like this um sort of moral standing. I'm just like, you don't always have to throw Clark and Diana under the bus
It's
to,
true. It was
yeah,
Mark Wade, though.
right. You don't have to do that to justify their connection to human, or mortal. I wouldn't say human because Clark and Diana are human. Mortal,
Dan, even more so being
characters.
like a clay a goddess. But you know what's interesting? To your point, Wonder Woman should be more involved in the Trinity because, as I've always said, the here's why the Trinity works. Why these three characters being the Trinity actually works, because they each represent a component of being a superhero. Superman represents hope. Batman represents justice. Wonder Woman represents truth. Now, here's the part that DC gets wrong. Wonder Woman should be the most important member of the Trinity, because here's why. You don't get real justice without the truth, and you can't be hopeful about the future unless you're truthful with yourself. Everything revolves around truth. So really, Wonder Woman is the most important member of the Trinity. There goes. She's the most important character DC has.
Exactly, but she's a woman. So,
Yes. Remember when Didio was pissed off that Wonder Woman was doing so well because he was concerned that Wonder Woman was going to outshine Batman, Superman? And then my response is, you're still getting the money. What
exactly.
difference does that make?
Exactly. Yeah, the Trinity, going back to the story wise though, you have Kingdom Come, that really solidified this idea of them being, this trio. Um, then you have Eric Luke's Wonder Woman, issues 140, 141. And that sort of, honestly, it was kind of like a accumulation of Perez early times, with Clark and Diana having their romantic infatuation, that whole experience, plus adding on to Kingdom Come. So it was a combination of that. And them being in this dream world and Batman being, he was basically the third wheel, you know. But that was it. It was basically Clark and Diana having their moment of feelings for each other, and then you get Batman's perspective on it a little bit.
Yeah,
Then
exactly.
after that, it really wasn't anything. I think the 2006 run of JLA, you had like I think issue 0 where they
Hmm.
tried to have the Trinity, but it still it was like moments to try to have them together from pre-crisis and everything like that, but it still was just moments made up. It wasn't actual moments that truly carried on from that time, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
it was more of they've been behind every Justice League.
yeah, it really wasn't them. But at the same time, if you go read back on the Justice League or Justice Society, they don't have that type of interactions though as a trio.
Hmm.
And then you have Matt Wagner and Kurt Busiek, their Trinity books, which again, I think Busiek Trinity book was a little off. You know, you had this moment where Diana had to explain about how Clark is like husband. He's husband material, and Bruce is a thrill or something like that, and how I guess they had this attraction towards each other. You know, either way, trying to basically solidify the whole family thing of a throuple, basically what that was. And I think at the end of that series, they ended up as like some throuple gods or something. I don't know. It was weird. So I don't even think that's really referenced.
In the Trinity series, no. But what happened with that is that they were just like what happened is the villain that they were fighting, which was like the Trinity of Evil, it was like the bad guy Trinity, including Cersei, rewrote took them out of reality and created a new reality where what if the Trinity did not exist, and you see like how it affected the other characters, but where the Trinity went, they became like gods, if you will.
Right, but they were
It was
like,
weird.
yeah, that's the main point is that it was very weird and didn't make any sense. And it was just trying to force this relationship that wasn't there. Then you have Matt Wagner where Batman pretty much essayed Diana. um,
Mm. Is that the one where he kissed her and then she slapped him or something like
yeah,
that?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So that was something that's kind of like, okay, he de he demeaned her and everything, and then you do something like that because of the alluring, you know, how she looked or whatever, or being on. It was basically this um manly impulse, you know, and that it goes against, of course, the Amazons and manhandling and everything like that. But then you have Diana and Clark again. They have this sort of tension between them of Clark saying that Diana is pretty much magnificent, and Diana, you know, amazed by Clark. But at the end, it really didn't mean anything. Then you go with, I think it's sacrifice and everything like that, and that was
Oh boy.
means to break the Trinity. But I'm like, still, they weren't that close of friends in the first place, so they were really just for the marketing thing. So the Trinity isn't a thing to break in the first place. But you
That's
have
the other
this.
thing. It's like even I tell people this, and like it was a point of contention I had with someone once, but I'm like, Batman and Wonder Woman are not close friends. They really don't have that close of a relationship at all compared to Superman and
Exactly.
Wonder Woman.
And the thing is, that is pretty much what sacrifice was. From well, if Rucka were to have continued to write, you know, Wonder Woman, he basically wanted Clark and Diana to have that animosity towards each other, be antagonistic. He continues to do so, and that will lead to her being closer to Batman. Christopher Priest did the same thing with the 18th letter of having Clark jealous, you know, and him. basically in a twisted way confessing he still has these harboring feelings for Diana. He doesn't want her with another man. So that distanced them because, Diana is hurt by how Cal treats her. So Batman appears, giving her a rose or whatever like that. And Christopher Priest also admitted that that's what he wanted. He wanted to change the Trinity dynamic, but that doesn't work that way, especially when they don't have anything to truly, bound them together. Uh, then you have New 52, where I would say it was just at the end with Final Days of Superman, where you got this moment of the Trinity, together. But it was mostly for aesthetic and the marketing thing of Final Days, then Trinity Rebirth. But that still didn't last at all because you have a Superman that was not of, at the time, New 52 world. It that relationship, again, you're trying to force Batman and Superman together because now they both have sons, so they have that connection at least. But where does that leave Diana? And this Diana did not have a relationship with even New 52 Bruce, even if they were supposed to be friends. Then Rebirth, within Rebirth, you have these moments where Christopher Priest, Rucka, and Tom King tries to make Diana and Bruce closer. it, Tom King plagiarizing Immortal Beloved,
Yeah.
where his wedding story, again, have to reiterate this, that was not supposed to be a story at all. Diana was not supposed to be featured in anything of Batman. Um, the only reason why that story even exists is because Joel Jones wanted to draw Wonder Woman, and he didn't have a story. It was actually supposed to be a Hal Jordan story. I think he was supposed to throw like a bachelor party,
That would have been
and
better. I'm like, what are you talking about? That
right,
that would have been so much better.
right, but she didn't want to draw that, so because she, wanted what she wanted, he did not have a story, plagiarized this, didn't I can't believe he like lied and was like, "Oh, he never knew this existed." I'm like, Tom King, that's the worst lie you could ever tell. That you never knew that this story existed when it's beat for beat. You know,
Like to the point where he even recreated they almost kiss, but then they says no, it'll only be Selena, and I go,
right,
you even got the worst part of the book.
right, and made it worse. Made
Made
it
it
made it much much
infinitely
worse.
worse. Well, actually, what's kind of funny? In some ways, he actually gave me ammunition because it's like now I can say, hey, Wonder Bat friends, DC is telling you it's never gonna happen, so suck it.
Well, true, but at the same
I,
time,
I know, Britt. I'm trying to look for the silver lining with this because Lord knows we need that.
it's still terrible because you have Diana as a temptress. At least in the original story, Diana wasn't a temptress. It was basically Clark having, again, going through his feelings for Diana and having to suppress them. You
And
know,
he had an infantile, like devotion to a woman that, as far as he knew, was dead. I'm like, pfft.
exactly.
But
Um,
anyway, that actually gets into the editorial because again, it's like Wonder Woman. The other problem with the Trinity concept is so DC always props up Batman, Superman, Batman especially, but they always crap on Wonder Woman.
yeah, I mean, her stories are not as impactful. I I'm doing the Twitter threads, and we're trying to find, certain panels. That's is very difficult, to when we know how the character is supposed to be written, if we see that a story has potential and could be written better, and but the pages, panels, the issues, they just really are a disappointment. Even as simple as my latest thread of song comparisons. I'm like, this matches Diana to a T, but the thing is, if you see, most of the panels are from Perez Run, you know, and it's like that is a shame because if again, if you think of Perez as the golden standard, as the template for modern age Diana, we should have, you know, that respect of Perez and truly using him as a template, and her stories for modern day should be better. It should um be as impactful as that was. But we don't have a Diana that's impactful. We don't have her leading, the Justice League, leading just within
Well,
her own story.
well, hang on. She is leading. She's leading everyone in how awesome Steve Trevor is. Yeah, there you go. I got you. I'm sorry. I had to, Britt. I had to, Britt. But yeah, but the other factor here that's interesting about this is it's also like here's the problem with the lack of character development. It's not necessarily the Trinity's fault also, but it's like Wonder Woman doesn't have because it's like they keep vacillating on some factors with Diana. Like, is she bulletproof? Is she not bulletproof? For the longest time, is she made of clay? Is she Zeus's daughter? And I'm like, okay, look, you need to at the very least hammer this stuff down and say, no, this is who Diana is. This is her powers. This is her weaknesses. This is it. We're sticking with this. Because if you're a new reader and you go, I want to read Wonder Woman, and you have so many different things that they vacillate between, this is going to overwhelm you real fast.
Exactly. So not only are you screwing up Diana's character and everything that the elements that are supposed to make up her character, it's also the bonds that she have or the lack of bonds, because you don't know if
the unspecial bonds.
Yeah. So you have her relationship with Donna. Donna is a total different beast, because you don't know what origin she has. Then Cassie is basically bootleg Vanessa. So it's kind of like that. You have way more emotion with Vanessa than Cassie. And even we can't even lie. We're trying to write Cassie in the Shelterverse or just anything. For the life of me, I can't do it. Like, I mention her, but to actually write her character and to care about her, I can't. It's kind of like, okay, no, I want to use Vanessa for this.
She should be a Wonder Girl at this point.
Yes. And then all the other Amazons, what I don't like is how fans, the whole revisionist thing, because the Amazons have been dog walked by DC since post-crisis. They have been demonized and everything and just wronged since then, since that horrid Amazon attack story.
Which, trust me, Britt, you're gonna have to read that story one day.
See, you almost made me say something. You were trying to keep this PG-13. I almost said something. So you have that. And yeah, New 52 it was realism, but at the same time, their story was still about redemption. And at the end, they were going to be the Amazons that we know of. It was just they had to actually go through it. That trauma of, being wronged by men. It was basically an evil for evil type thing that they had to have a lesson learned from it, and how you don't do that. Or two wrongs don't make a right, that type of thing. So with Diana now, with Rebirth, that was supposed to be a course correction or whatever, but it didn't correct anything. Actually, it went off course even more. And you don't have that true impact with the Amazons. I mean, they pretty much shot themselves in the foot by having another event called Amazon's Attack.
Which, by the way, was way better.
It was better, but it's still kind of like, why would you use the same title?
Of one of the worst stories ever. So what should we name the story that's supposed to be a tie-in to a very controversial Wonder Woman run that most people hate? But how about Amazon's Attack? Wait. Isn't that the storyline of what's known as the worst Wonder Woman story of all time? Oh, or the worst DC story of all time? Yes. Won't that bite us in the ass? No, don't worry. It's totally fine. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Josie Campbell's gonna write it. We're all good. It was okay, but I will say the best part that story ever gave was whenever Cassie like runs through a wall, she goes, "Secret entrance!" That's the greatest thing ever. And if I ever write Wonder Woman and I get to use Cassie, I will carry that forward because that is great. And there's one point where I think it was Yara. Yara asked, "Do you have to scream that every time you go through a wall?" And then Cassie goes, "Well, when you are going through walls, you can come up with the catchphrase."
I mean, that's cute. That's pretty much the only thing that she would probably be saying as far as dialogue within,
I
because
somehow you
again,
freaking hate Cassie. It's like, oh my
it's not that
god.
I hate her. It's just I just don't know how, like, I can't get into her character. Like, what is her backstory besides being bootleg Vanessa?
Well, she's the more detective of the Wonder Girls, like in Trial of the Amazons, which it's very interesting. But we could do an entire episode on Trial of the Amazons. Hint, hint. But it's like, because like she's the one that like goes through and like learns and like deduces who killed Hippolyta, and that is why when Tom King says, "I'm doing a murder mystery story on Olympus, I'm gonna bring in Batman," and I go, "Cassie is right there."
And Batman didn't do anything. I mean,
He got struck by lightning, Britt. Let's be clear.
Right.
He did do something. He got struck by lightning and basically aggrandized Steve Trevor.
Right. I mean, but he still, like, if you wanted this whole detective thing, he didn't even do any detective work. It
That was mainly Wonder Woman, and then she screamed in the face of the gods, didn't care about blasphemy. Again, I feel like this run has been going on for like 5 years now. Isn't that funny?
5 years of hell.
Yes, exactly. Very 5 years of hell. But it's like the other thing. It's like see, it's also the interesting thing about this is like, again with the Trinity, it's funny about that is, and you make a good point here. It's like Bruce and Clark obviously have the close bromance, and they like go on adventure and stuff. But like, what does this have to do? What does this really have to do with Diana? It's like even in the Trinity book for Rebirth that Manipul wrote, there wasn't a lot for Diana to do besides, spoiler alert, prop up Lois.
Exactly. I mean, she really didn't do anything. She was just there. You might as well have the Justice League book, honestly. And
Yeah,
even in the
it
Justice
turned
League
into
book,
the Justice League book, and I'm like, wait. What is going
and then
on
you
here?
have Robinson, like the last, how far that book fell was the last story for the Trinity was trying to find Steve Trevor. And it was like, who gives a frogs?
I certainly
Um,
don't.
yeah. And it's like, why? Why even do this story? But it was it was actually a changing story because the Trinity, oh, well, specifically, Clark and Diana were supposed to protect a hate speaker bigot.
Mhm.
And of course, Batman was going to be the one that actually had common sense. And that was another thing that was supposed to divide the Trinity. And yeah, at the time where you have this political high in division, of course, that story was very tone deaf. And you have two basic immigrants supporting a bigot is, yeah, I'm not sure how that, who thought this was a good idea.
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly. It's like we walk into DC offices and we're like, we gave you one thing to do. One thing to do. What do you do?
you just screw it up.
Yeah, exactly.
So with that, yeah, other than that, I think wasn't it a story where they end up on the watchtower and it's falling or something is
Yeah,
possessing it.
I think there was it was either a Justice story or the Trinity story where like it's taken over by like bug creatures or something like that, and it's like
Yeah, they definitely.
they have to fight like Jessica and all the other heroes because they all have been taken. They're all being puppeted by these creatures.
Yeah, you can definitely tell they were throwing a lot of shit to the wall and it was like, let's see, how this goes. So the book only lasted for 22 issues, and it did drop in sales. It actually dropped lower than Superman and Wonder Woman when um, Tomasi crashed the book. Uh, so yeah, the Trinity has yet to be actually justified as a trio, and it's only based on, you know, very superficial moments that really don't have the longevity to justify them as a trio. Even, recently with DCKO, the preview of the story by Scott Snyder, and he has them having this game night or whatever. And the way it's written, of course, is you have a narrator and he's telling you what's going on, but you don't really see it and you don't feel it. It's very contrived.
It's also
And
the first time DC has acknowledged Trinity as a character outside of the Wonder Woman books,
I'm not
which
surprised that
yeah, go ahead.
I'm not surprised that is Scott Snyder, that's
But here's
acknowledging
the
it.
other thing. It's like, yeah, as it stands right now, she's canon. That won't last that long, but as it stands right now, yeah, of course she's canon. But it's like, I'm like, it's going to be very interesting to read these books after she's retconned out of canon.
Right, but um what that was for her to be mentioned, it it was to create this again superficial bond that, oh, the Trinity, quote unquote, now has bio kids and you have the bio Trinity. And it's kind of like that's very superficial, is contrived. It doesn't make sense
Yeah, yeah,
because
and I'm
we have
like, I
yet to
thought,
see.
I thought Clark and Lois adopted kids.
Right. And Bruce has all the Robins, but not only that, it's the fact that we have yet to see Diana actually interact with John.
Hmm.
Yes, she had Damien, but that was
That
Tom
was,
King.
yeah.
That was basically for his story. But to actually have that genuine interactions with them, no, you have not seen that at all. Um, Even present day, Bruce and Clark has not met Trinity. So how are they able to talk about them and have this bond? And then Snyder saying that, oh, they're not colleagues, they're not, whatever, they're family. No, they're not family because they've never acted as such. So it's things like that that's like, yeah, fans are going to hold on to whatever said. And we see that when Rucka opens his mouth and talk about Cheetah and stuff like that.
Or PKJ talking about he sees Wonder Woman as like queer, and I go, bro. Well, first off, it's because one particular person keeps asking, well, how do you see Diana as this? And I go, how about do you really think that writers care about that?
I mean, they care in a sense of trying to get people to read their book, even if they
Yeah,
are baiting, like how Tom King was doing for his issue 10. You know, I mean, you can say that's questionable of if that was truly bait, but or even Rucka is the prime example of baiting just for people to read his books or follow him, that's pretty much what it is. So, yeah, the it's just overall the Trinity is not what these fans make it seem. It
exactly.
is it's very much just a marketing ploy. It's they have moments, but it's very, very rare.
Exactly.
It
It has to be written by Conrad so he could say, I show you Clark knows a thing or two about getting his hands dirty.
right, you have that, but again, they didn't really show of being a Trinity. You have that moment of them hugging, but that was definitely a Twitter moment. It was mostly just for that page to be posted on Twitter. It's not something that was truly, earned, I would say, with
Exactly.
these iterations. And
Exactly.
the other recent one is Mark Waid with, I mean, I can't believe within the 42 issues of World's Finest, Mark Waid thought, oh, just a one and done of the Trinity first mission together, and that's it, that's all. And Diana has not been mentioned within World's Finest at all.
It's really stupid, isn't it? And I'm like, bro. Or it's like when he insults Cheetah's intelligence, but besides that. But it's like, so then you get to, yeah, basically the thing is that, yeah, you're right here. The Trinity, because when is the last time in a Trinity story Batman and Superman fought like only Wonder Woman villains instead of her coming over to like fight their villains? It doesn't
Exactly.
happen.
Well, Batman, he can't fight her villains, but
Yeah, exactly. We saw he got struck by lightning.
exactly. And you would definitely have to dumb down her villains, especially the gods. And we did see that too. Not only did Bruce get struck by lightning, but it was like the gods were afraid of him. And I'm kind of like, no.
There's gods, there's men, then there's Batman. And I go, oh, screw you.
Exactly.
I love Batman being out after being struck by lightning. He's like an anime character. Whenever they're shocked and they're like, That was I love that part. So then you get. So here's the thing. Here's the point of this episode. So who should be Super Wonder Woman's World's Finest? Well, again, like I said before, Superman Wonder Woman book. Here's an interesting thing about that, because it's like, for one thing, Clark can beat the god's ass. Just ask Apollo. And it's like they actually have a strong pre-existing relationship, platonic or otherwise.
Exactly. You can have a story with them and it can be ambiguous. It doesn't have to be full on romantic. It doesn't, or it can be that subtle, ambiguous type thing. And we're fine with that. As long as you show Clark and Diana having this respected relationship, that we know that they have. Again, Perez showed it, Clark being very supportive of Diana. He became pretty much a supporting character for her. You saw it in Tomorrowverse, the Crisis trilogy, where Earth 2 Superman was Wonder Woman's love interest. It wasn't the other way around. And with Charles Soule, he wrote Diana being the more mature one and the one that really, was straightforward about their relationship. Sure, she had a few questions or whatever, but she knew what she wanted. And it was Clark that had to do more of the growing because of Diana and showing his worth to her. That is always their dynamic, is that Diana, she knows what she wants. She sees Cal as, this very respectable, intelligent, humble and kind man.
Yeah, exactly.
But Cal sees Diana as this very open, free-spirited, loving woman that inspires him to be, a better leader, a better man, and just be himself. And that thing, when you play on that, is especially within building their friendship or having that as the basis, and you have a story potential that, again, you can put them in different scenarios and way over the top dramatic scenarios as we have done in Shelterverse. And again, that through line is still there. The mainstay is still there to show either way, whether they are enemies or have that sort of antagonistic tension, but in some way there still will be respect.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like platonic. Either way works. Obviously, Britt and I prefer romantic, but either way works. So then you get to like, you also have the idea where One's an immigrant and one's a refugee. You could tell stories about gods and men. Again, the story potential of these two having their own book, again, not even romantic. I have to keep saying that because I know some people on Twitter is going to clip this, but it's
Just
like,
give us,
what?
just give us complicated work spouses.
Yeah,
Is the
that's all we
simplest
need.
part. That is the simplest you can put it, because work spouses, they have this bond, that, like Clark and Mera, they do. But with Clark and Mera, they still have a little bit more, because work spouses are strictly platonic at certain points.
Mhm.
But so they have, you can edge it out just a little bit, but you still can put them as that work spouse, and then and have that slow burn with them too. And it doesn't have to be a full-on romance. It really doesn't. Not first, because honestly, DC doesn't know how to write, full-on romances, because they do go over the top with the drama, or trying to make it work, use other characters as mouthpieces and stuff like that. Be real petty. No, just give us a story that challenges both characters in a respectful manner, and that makes sense. And not only just both characters, but also them as a partnership.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
you have that investment of the fans.
Yeah, exactly. And then what you have here, because again, here's the like interesting thing about Superman and Wonder Woman being together, or like having a book together, is for story potential. Again, when you get to bringing in Wonder or Superman to Wonder Woman's mythos, first off, you have the Amazons being able to like see this is the kindest, most like you wouldn't expect him to be this way man. And Britt, what's one of Superman's vulnerabilities?
Magic.
What's like the majority of Wonder Woman villains powered by?
Magic.
So you want stakes, DC. You have like people keep complaining that Superman's too powerful and he should go up against more magic villains. Hello, it's right there. It's literally right there. All you have to do is say, go fight Wonder Woman villains. Hey, there you go. And then again, particularly if like you can have a scene. I'm going to pitch you a scene, Britt. I'm going to picture this. They're fighting a rogue Amazon named Emily. Just kidding. And the Amazon has a negative opinion of men, like the extreme one, like Armesia in DCAU. She meets Clark. She sees the close friendship / work spousal relationship that Clark and Diana have. And then Diana, she goes to Clark, and the Amazon goes to Diana and says, inevitably, he will betray you. They always do. And then Diana goes, then you obviously don't know Cal. There you go.
Perfect.
And that's even without Clark using any violence. He just has to exist. Like, I'm like, this is what really annoys me, Britt. People complain that like Superman has all these problems, but the easy option is right there.
They don't want easy. They want complication, and to basically shoot themselves in the foot.
Yeah, exactly. Also, it's more organic that Superman would show up and like fight. Like here's the thing. If I were writing the let's say we swapped out Batman with Superman in that issue with Tom King, and I was writing it. When Zeus says, "Oh, the Man of Steel, it's good to see you," and then Clark goes, "You know me," and then instead of saying there's gods, there's men, but then there's Superman, I would have Zeus say, "Well, I remembered what you did to Apollo." There you go.
That's hilarious.
Exactly. If I ever write this, I am going to keep referencing that moment, because that's my favorite Superman moment of all time, like bar none. But anyway, that's the type of stuff that you could have. And then can you imagine if like Apollo goes to war against Superman and Wonder Woman? Because again, even though he's powered by sunlight, he has access to beings that, like, let me put it this way. Wonder Woman's sword can cut Superman. I'm pretty sure more than Wonder Woman has magical swords. And it's like, again, this is how you create a situation where Superman can be harmed and or killed.
Right. Um, Another thing is that even with the gods, and the Amazons, with Clark just showing how his humbleness too. It's not so much as just the physical power,
Oh yeah.
but also if he goes to Themyscira and he helps, the Amazons say Doom's Doors opens, as we saw in the Charles Sewell book, and demons come out or whatever else, and he doesn't hesitate to make a sacrifice or to help the Amazons. That shows, even more. What I would say is that for even post crisis, there was a scene where Clark was supposed to go to Themyscira, and Diana wanted to basically, share her world, her heritage, with him. But of course, probably editorial, he he couldn't, so Lois took his place or whatever, blah blah blah. But if they were to have, you know, go through with that, to see Clark or, Superman as Clark Kent, the reporter, but on a deeper level, to see Clark as Diana's friend, as a man that she trusts, and actually be invited to the island to learn of their ways.
Mm-hmm.
That really speaks so much volume and has so much impact and so powerful. You know, the
The other thing I would have, by the way, Britt, a cute moment. Clark shows up, but he's still hovering above the ground. And then she goes, Clark, why are you hovering over the ground? He's like, well, I don't want to be rude. I know it's like really weird for men to step foot on Themyscira. So he's like hovering like a foot above the ground. And then Hippolyta says, you can land.
that is so cute. That is cute.
Tell me that's not something Clark would do.
He definitely would.
He's
See,
like, I don't know what to do. Can I touch? What am I not allowed to touch? I don't want to get like castrated.
see, this is why DC needs to hire us.
Oh, Clark looks around and goes, don't bring Guy Gardner here, for the love of God. Yeah, see, this is the type of interactions that you could be having if you actually had people that love all these characters so much, which I'm not going to, which there are a lot of people at DC that love Superman and Batman. There's not enough that actually love Wonder Woman. They may say they do, but their
Exactly.
writing reflects the literal opposite. A certain
Right.
writer that's currently writing right now proves that.
Exactly.
But anyway, so then you get to the financial benefits, because after all, Britt, what is DC not?
Financially successful right now.
Well, not only that, what do I always say about DC is not?
You say a lot of knots, Jerry.
Jeez. DC is not a charity. You
Like-
need to show monetary benefits. You say a lot of stuff. God.
You
Is
say
that
a lot of
payback
knots.
for us saying that you're the lowest of this group?
Well, I didn't say it. You said it. I wasn't even thinking that. But since you said it, might as well. But no, what I'm trying to say, what I was saying was, you say a lot of knots. Like DC does a lot of stuff that's a no, that's a not. So it's kind of like, which one do I choose, Jerry, from this list? This very long list.
Exactly. Fair enough. But yeah, you need some commercial proof. And here's the thing. The last time they had a Superman Wonder Woman book, it was the top-selling Superman book. And I would hazard to guess the top-selling Wonder Woman book as well. So I'm like, it's not like this is a monetary risk to put a Superman Wonder Woman book out there.
Exactly. I mean, you have the data. And not only that, but you have a oral report from Polygon that says it in black and white as well. But to see the comparison between all of DC books now, the books that they release, they don't even have that many ongoings anymore. All of their books, or majority, starts off as a miniseries, and then it's 6 issues, and then if that can hold up, then they might, level it to 12 issues. Then if they can reach that 12 issue goal, then it goes to an ongoing. And if you have to do those steps to ensure a book, you know, can stand on its own, then obviously your business model is totally messed up.
Yeah, because it's like if that's the amount of like steps you got to go, maybe you should reevaluate who's getting books.
Exactly. I mean, your investment, you have these expectations set, and due to biasness, some of the expectations are purposely set very low, and then some expectations are set very high to, of course, what they like. So for Superman and Wonder Woman, the expectations, it it seemed that they didn't expect it. They expected it to do well, given the, media attention that it had and everything like that. But it exceeded the expectation, and that's kind of what shocked
That's
them.
a dramatic understatement, Britt. 100,000 sales. When's the last time a Superman or a Wonder Woman book got that?
Exactly. Unless you have, you know, tons of variant covers. If it is the main book being a number one, that's the only way. But a Superman and Wonder Woman book that Wonder Woman is already struggling to sell on her own. Superman is kind of like a very distant second to Batman and have fair, sales, and the controversy, quote unquote, of this pairing, you would think that, yeah, it would crash and burn, but it didn't. It outsold most of their books.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm.
so with that said, you
Exa-
bring in post crisis, or I wouldn't say post crisis. I would say maybe I have no idea how to actually describe rebirth. I want to say it's kind of like
It's
afterbirth,
it's it's
but
it's regurgitation.
regurgitated.
It's essentially what it is. It's like so DC is like a baby, like a mother bird bringing like food back to her kids, and then she has to. So she's already eaten this food. It's been masticated. It basically turns into lump o really crappy proteins, and then she has to like regurgitate it up. I'm sorry for getting
Yeah,
very graphic.
and honestly, it's even worse than that though. But you have this, and you're going on talking about the original power couple is bad, that this is the most anticipated book, and yada yada. And on that note, you are also saying how Clark and Diana are breaking up, and not barely promoting the book, but you're promoting Superman and Lois. And then what comes out at barely 30K? Superman and Lois.
By the way, I looked up on ICV2. So they had this thing that's like the sales estimates for October, the month that Superman Wonder Woman #1 came out. I wanted to see what the ranking is. It was number 7
7. Yes.
of 300.
Yes. It and what's so crazy is that the ranking has, you had 300 and now you have 200. It's kind of sad how the ranking charts has, shrunk.
Yeah, but
And
I wanted to say, so isn't that interesting? 7 of 3 freaking hundred.
and it was only behind, I believe, Batman.
Yeah, it was like Batman and like a couple of like indie and Marvel books, but besides that,
Exactly.
yeah, exactly. So I'm like, well, it's going to be behind Batman because Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman books are always behind Batman. But it's like the point is, it's like, isn't that interesting how that happened? And it's really funny. I'm gonna look up real quick as you talk, Britt. The one for Superman Lois. I want to see this.
Well, I was I think it was, if it was 30K, it was probably in the 60 range at that time. 60 or
What's
70
the
range.
what's the book called again? Superman, Lois and Clark,
Lois and Clark, dang, what was the
Rebirth. Okay, it's called it's called Superman, Lois and Clark.
yeah. So you have that. And this book was supposed to be an ongoing at first, but then they cut it down to an odd 8 issues, which didn't make any sense. But I'm guessing that, of course, they got the orders back and it just didn't pop off as they thought it would. So you have this book competing against Superman and Wonder Woman, while again, Superman and Wonder Woman is being written horribly. And the book still, you know, did not do well. It continued to dwindle. And this is, however, this is when Rebirth began to ramp up.
I'm
And
scrolling so far down this list and I haven't found it yet. Oh,
are
there you
you
go. 64.
so
Number one, mind you.
number
The
one?
number one issue.
Exactly. You have a number one for the supposed original power couple, the
That
best
everyone
couple in comics.
supposedly wanted.
Yes. But the couple that apparently no one likes, that is eugenics, that misogynistic and everything else under the sun, rank 7.
Of 300, mind you, of 300. Yeah, that is really funny. But it's like, so again, this gets into this. Actually, this addresses both of these points because you have the commercial viability of it because there was like 94,000 sales or something like that for Superman and Wonder Woman. And again, the rankings here and the consistent rankings and like overall audience opinions about Superman and Wonder Woman, particularly under Charles Soule, proves that like the audience likes it. So you could, plus this is a great way to expose the Superman fan base to Wonder Woman villains and like show people Wonder Woman's world, because that's the other problem. DC hides Wonder Woman's world so much. That's why people don't know Wonder Woman's villains or stuff. It's that DC can only develop it so much, but if people aren't exposed to them, it's all for naught.
Exactly. And also social media is it's the devil's playground, basically. And you have TikTok, which you have comic book TikTok, which they spread so much misinformation. I mean, they
That's
think,
an understatement.
they think that fan comics are real comics, facts, headcanons are facts is terrible.
They think their echo chamber represents the real world, which it doesn't.
Exactly.
Thank Christ it doesn't.
You have Twitter, which honestly, any positive tweet is going to go unnoticed. But if you have something that, say, fits the trend of the month or the week or whatever, then, or that it's a negative tweet, is going to get that interaction. But to see, on Instagram, again, to have an Instagram page for Superman and Wonder Woman, and it has over 70,000 followers. And it's mostly people, yeah, they will pick up a comic, but also just the general of fans who resonate with this pairing. That says a lot. So it's not a page that's just, which is a lot of comic book pages. They post a multitude of things. There is not just a shipping page. It's not, they basically cover Marvel and DC. Or if it is a shipping page, they would post multiple ships. But for this to be a sole one ship page with that many followers, it says a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And it's like, look at our pages. Look at the fact that like this show does extremely well for my channel. Lord knows your Instagram just keeps growing, you lucky duck. I'm like, but it's like you see, it's like, and here's the thing about this. You notice how you and I don't, for as much Wonder Woman content as we both do on our collective platforms, yes, we push for the couple, but we also just push for Wonder Woman to get respect. Superman as well, but mostly Wonder Woman, because of the two, who do you think needs it the most?
Exactly, Wonder Woman, because she deserves it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
she definitely deserves it. You, she's as you said earlier, she's the character that is supposed to lead. She's the character that is supposed to be just as much of an inspiration, or if not more so, the inspiration that Superman is. You know, and especially with it is a male-dominated genre of comic books, you know, comic stories or and all. And she is supposed to break within that
Yeah,
and
exactly.
lead other female characters. She's supposed to she isn't just a love interest. You know, a lot of things again, they give Lois this put her on a pedestal and saying that, oh, she's a journalist, she's in this male dominated field. But honestly, she's still very much dependent on Superman, you know. So she's not as independent as they try to make her seem.
Yeah, exactly. So then we get to the other financial benefits. So you have, again, that's what I said before, expands Wonder Woman's reach, because then the Superman audience that picks up anything with Superman is going to see, particularly if you give a focus to Wonder Woman and see how Superman fits in her world, then it's like, oh, okay, so these are these great villains that people keep telling us about. And then obviously DC's going to keep merchandising him. I mean, we have the thing, and I now have the Superman Wonder Woman statue, the legendary statue.
Exactly. I mean, no one wants to, well, I guess some people do, but a woman who sees herself as a hero in her own right would want to be Wonder Woman. And that is pretty much where that, you know, quote saying from that was officially licensed. I am, he is, or she is, he is my Superman and Wonder Woman. Um,
And
that
you
is a
notice how no
branding
one
thing.
says, "You're my Lois Lane."
Exactly. And also, I mean, from a marketing perspective, who wants to have LL on any type of merchandise? First of all, that
You're
looks like
taking
you're
L's, Britt. You're taking L's.
exactly that definitely looks like you're saying you're calling yourself a double loser or something like that. Like, who wants to have L on their whatever, on their wedding rings when we on Instagram, or you know, I've seen tons of posts, or I've been tagged on posts where people get custom wedding rings with the Superman logo and the Wonder Woman logo. Um, there's this company actually that DC is collaborating with, Inso, and they do wedding bands. And of course, they automatically have, even though they're separate as their own Superman and Wonder Woman, they still advertise them together as a his and her, you know, matching wedding bands. Then
Exactly.
we've had tons of shirts and any other you had uh Paul Gaultier, who did perfume and had the his and her perfume line for the summer of, I think it was 2017, and or yeah, it was 2017, and had a companion comic.
Mhm.
And with that comic, Clark and Diana were together, but their relationship still wasn't the focal point. They were on a date, but it was more so just a flirtatious moment, and then it went right back to the main focus of what the story was about. And that's all we asked for, you know. But yeah, marketing appeal, merchandising, Superman and Wonder Woman is just gold, you know, that DC is leaving on the table with this new movie. Well, it's not new, it's about 2 months old, but the Superman movie. Lois was not, barely in the marketing. She did not get any type of action figure or whatever. She didn't get any merchandise at all. Of course, she's gonna be in the promos of like the videos and stuff like that, or social, social advertisements. But she really just wasn't that standout. I mean, that's kind of embarrassing of how DC fans or whatever call her the first lady of DC, or Superman's equal, better half, or
Even
whatever.
though that Siegel and Schuster didn't want Superman to marry Lois at all.
Exactly. But you get outshined, and marketing thinks it's better for a dog than this romantic, relationship or whatever. And honestly, DC has not learned their lesson, because if they try to go for Superman, um, in that it all depends. But that was the problem of Superman Returns. And that's pretty much why it flopped, because they were trying to lean more on the romantic side, and it was so
And the
boring
nostalgia, yeah,
and
exactly,
nostalgia.
exactly.
And
And you notice what the most successful Superman movie international, totally, because I know that some people are trying to cope and say, "Oh, the most popular Superman movie domestically." Yeah, no one uses that metric, by the way. Isn't it kind of funny, Britt, how the more successful Superman movie monetarily was heavily, obviously inspired by the New 52?
well, we can.
In terms of like the way Clark is characterized, let me put it to you that way. It's not like he's with Wonder Woman, we know that, but it's like Man of Steel is very much the New 52, like Grant Morrison Superman. Just that silence. Just that silence. I love that silence.
I mean, not exactly, but maybe
You know
he
what
got
I'm trying to say.
he
You know what
probably
I'm
got
trying
like
to say.
a sprinklet. We can give
Let me
him a
put it this way.
sprinklet.
The more successful Superman movie tried new stuff.
Well, yeah, and again, you have to appeal to more international, fans to be diverse. You can't just go saying that, oh, Superman is American. No, no, that you're killing your international fan base right then. You don't just limit the character. And also, I mean, even the demographic for this movie was majority Caucasian males older than 25.
Yeah, exactly. And by
So,
your mic is kind of acting up.
oh, the joy of technology.
Can't hear a single thing.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Much better. Much better.
The joys of technology.
Screw you, Apple.
Yeah, I'm definitely going. Honestly, I need to sue them, because you paid so much, and like they're giving such cheap material. It does not last, but it is what it is. We'll make it through.
Yeah, exactly. We will endure. But
Yeah,
anyway.
but yeah. So the benefit of a Superman and Wonder Woman book, it's not like DC hasn't done the idea and we're just talking out the side of our necks. No, we actually have evidence that, first of all, they have done it before and it was successful. We wouldn't have the show, we wouldn't have this talk if it was the other way around, where DC has not, like I said, has not done it at all, or they did have this and it wasn't successful, but it was. The thing is that pretty much killed it was DC editorial being spiteful and biased.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So then what we have is the symbolic benefits. Because again, is with Superman and Wonder Woman, it's the other thing is like it's true gender equality because it's like he's the strongest man, she's the strongest woman, and they both are at the same position equally as in relation to the other superheroes. Because when you think about it, Superman and Wonder Woman are like the, for lack of a better term, king and queen of the DC universe, in particular the superheroes.
Well, you can say that that is canonical, given that DC did have a um chess um
Oh yeah,
chess
chess
game.
set that
Chess set,
does
yeah.
have them. Yeah, that's good.
So you're right.
Yeah. So all right, I'll take that. I'll take that. But it's like yeah, that's the issue, particularly, and then it also gets into, as you have said many times, about like him being an immigrant and well, her being an immigrant and him being a refugee. You can also tell that type of story. So it's like, what do you think? It's like that's the same type of like that's the same like that's the story that really when you think about it, that is straight up a Wonder Woman story, particularly because it's like again, she talks a lot about gender equality and such, and then it's like she hangs out with this man that is the most powerful man on earth, but only wants to serve others.
Exactly. I mean, and the thing is, I don't care for like Steve when they say, "Oh, well, it's a whole gender reversal type thing." Essentially, you're making Diana Superman, but female. Like that
Exactly.
that isn't anything groundbreaking or compelling. The groundbreaking or compelling is the fact that you have actual equals playing a part in each other's stories, and showing that different perspective of what it means to be the epitome of the most respected inspirational man and woman.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So it's so that's where I kind of see this going. Now, here's the other thing. So you may be wondering, okay, so we talked about Superman being Wonder Woman's world's finest, but obviously the other thing that we have is it's a lot of female characters as well. So in the other concept that we could do is have a more, and this is particularly the conversation that NJ wanted us to have. Shout out to NJ again. It's like, all right, so which of the many female characters in DC's vast pantheon would be Wonder Woman's world's finest? Because then you get into like, okay, so Batman and Superman are both dudes. Who's Wonder Woman's thing? Because in addition to like Wonder Woman being like the leader of like the entire DC universe, she's doubly the leader of all of the because she is the first female superhero. And when you think about it, she is like the example, particularly that every female superhero follows. I mean, hell, she has trained Kara. She has obviously mentored the Wonder Girls. One day she will have redeemed not Cheetah, because I can't believe people want. Can you believe, by the way, that some fans would rather her redeem Cheetah than Vanessa?
Right.
Isn't that kind of dumb?
Because they're only looking at the romantic aspects of it, and
The
even
romantic. And I go, guys, if you really cared about Wonder Woman, the conversation would be more about how do we get her good stories, or what are the best Wonder Woman stories, instead of who is she sleeping with?
exactly.
Like that is the biggest problem in the Wonder Woman fan base, and that's how we get Tom King on Wonder Woman, because DC probably thinks that hey, we could put anyone on Wonder Woman, no one cares. That they're more busy talking about who she's sleeping with.
I mean,
And
that
in
is
a way,
all.
Britt, isn't it misogynistic to only talk about who a woman is sleeping with?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, exactly. That was my like big point there. But it's like Britt. So to talk a little bit about Wonder Woman having female world's finest.
Okay, so I mean, yeah, she could, team up with other male, characters, but I mean, who else does she really have a bond with the male characters? No, that it, it doesn't truly sit well. And with Diana, we need more, showing her sisterhood, showing her basically that not all, females are your friends. Diana comes from a society of women who bonded together, even if they argued, even if they had a civil war, they still, would come together. Well, Diana, of course, coming from that island like that, she needs a reality check. And she gets it, from experience of that relationship bonding and building with a multitude of characters. But it's mostly from the other from women of man's world. She
Yeah.
has Etta Candy, but also just other female superheroes. So the first um, female superhero would be Mera. Mera is, you know, she's a princess, in Atlantis, well, a queen, and they both have this balancing act of royalty and still this duty to who they are.
Well, not only
And
that, you know that she came from essentially a penal colony for Atlantis that was supposed to kill Arthur, right?
well, yes, but
No, I'm just saying that kind of adds more layers to the whole woman of two worlds, if you will.
well, yeah, basically her motivation is killing a dude. Diana's motivation is understanding, the relationships and bonds of men and women, and also, well, she her her
Oh,
initial reasoning was to stop Ares too.
well, go back to my previous idea about Wonder Woman fighting an Amazon and the Amazons going, he will betray you one day, Diana. And then Diana goes, you obviously don't know Cal. Then Mera says, as someone that was supposed to kill a man, but then later fell in love with him, I can agree with Diana. You should really give men a chance. They're great.
Well, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
It's not my best, but I'm like, okay, it's there. But see, again, that's the story potential you got there, DC.
Yeah, I mean, anything is better than what DC has now, basically.
Oh, and by the way, before we go on, I just want to bring up this one thing. Please don't be shipping these characters together with Diana, people. That's all I'm going to say. Continue on, Britt.
I mean, people can ship who they want to ship as long as it's not, anything that is underage or just plain weird. Yeah, these characters that we have on this list, they are very much a sisterhood, like, and Diana's bond with them, it isn't romantic. Besides Mera and Bombshell, but that's a total different thing. But again, you can ship anyone you like. Okay, wait. Let me
But the
reel
problem
that
is
back.
that then the people that ship them together draw very explicit fan art.
I mean, that's the
Which
thing. You
I
can't.
get it, but then these people that ship her together act like this is canon. So that's why I'm like, don't do it.
Well, yeah, it is the thing that is canon, but it's also the double standard of you can't go shipping Diana with other characters doing, drawing or writing explicit things that are borderline or completely out of character. And then you want to act like this self-righteous or, performative on Twitter or whatever, and talking about Diana being treated poorly, whether it is her being demeaned and degraded by Tom King with his Steve Trevor obsession, or the whole thing of trying to force the narrative that she will be overshadowed by Clark. You know, so you just have to put those in check of the double standards, and yeah, it's true about the way shipping goes and the way people, I guess, interpret facts. Yeah, they will toss out, what's actually seen and what is something much more healthier for the character, for something that they prefer just because it's fiction, just like the obsession with Cheetah.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing about, the other thing about Mera that I really enjoy is that, again, it's like, particularly if they're both with Superman. I mean, let me rephrase that. If if Diana's with Superman and Mera's with Arthur, they both have experienced like guiding men of two worlds to embrace who they are. And because Mera and Diana are both the live out who you really are instead of like trying to hide from half of who you are, if that makes sense.
Exactly.
And then you get on the magic side where you get Zatanna. And again, it's like Diana was on the led a badass version of the Justice League Dark. So that's where you get that. And but can I say Diana's costume with the cloak? I love that. Can they give Diana a freaking cloak?
But instead of having it brown, because brown
don't have it brown, obviously. But I'm just saying. But I'm like, a cloak would actually be pretty dope. Anyway, I always thought Diana would look great with a cape. But it's like with this, it's like they both like understand like mythology and being like magical beings, and they also kind of understand because like I get the feeling even though Zatanna as far as I know does not exactly fight gods that much, she gets like a lot of like that side of Diana, if you will.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, they have had their moments within pre-crisis and post-crisis, especially when after Diana killed Lord and Zatanna, I believe she had to erase Bruce's memory, to save
Oh
him or something like
God.
that. So yeah, they both had to
Well, you know what
make
that was? All right. Have you ever read Identity Crisis?
no.
All right, so here's what happened in that story. So it's basically a murder mystery story where, like, I think Elongated Man's wife has been murdered. So what happens is, I think it was Elongated Wife's. Well, the point is, someone's murdered, and like the person leaves a message saying that like so it's basic. It's a lot. It's very similar to Heroes in Crisis, but what happens in this is, just so they can investigate. And then Batman discovers, all right, so Batman's memory was wiped by Zatanna. But the thing is, because at one point, Sue Dibney was like on the watchtower alone. Dr. Light teleported to the watchtower, like he snuck in, and R-worded her. So the Justice League find out. They wipe his memory and like completely wipe his memory of that ever happening, of him even being a villain. And Batman walks in on them doing that. So they wipe Batman's memory of that incident as well. He finds out that they wiped his memory, and this is why he creates Brother Eye.
Batman is very much a walking disaster.
What's kind of funny is that when they find out that like they wipe Batman's memory, the Flash goes, "You don't do that to Batman. He's gonna kill us."
I'm so tired of these are heroes that supposed to be powerful are intimidated by Batman. I mean,
Yeah, I know it's really stupid. But so, what do you think about this whole thing being motivated by a sexual assault?
I'm trying to go over that because that's a no for me.
Yeah, it's really dumb, and it's overall not a bad story, but that one element, I'm like, and the Justice League forcibly turning people into like productive members of society, I'm like, no, that is stupid.
I mean, that is so funny because I mean the whole dictatorship or whatever.
Injustice.
Yeah, very much so. And the thing is, this is crazy being, within the story, and it was post-crisis. If you look at Twitter and see the fans, the way that they talk, you would think that post-crisis was all sunshine and rainbows, or just
oh God,
just
don't even get Robert
gospel.
and I started about how they think post-crisis Superman was like, gee willikers. Oh no, he died in that era. But anyway, so next character, Black Canary, Dinah Lance / Drake, or whatever name they do. They're both fun, like fighters. First off, they both have been ruined by Tom King, and they're both like independent women that have like led their own teams. Because again, Dinah leads the Birds of Prey and such. At least the way I see it.
Well, for me, with this, Perez run. Diana is younger than Dinah. So she pretty much looked up to Dinah and Dinah wasn't really feeling Diana at first, and so it's a slow build of a relationship. But to me, how you put this together is understanding that just like Diana and Hippolyta, Diana and her mother is also a mother-daughter relationship, and the backbone of their story.
Yeah.
So they can bond over trying to either live up to those expectations of being, the successful daughter of whether it is um, Dinah's mother who was Black Canary and now she's a legacy character in a sense. And Diana now, officially canon is as well, being that Hippolyta was the first Wonder Woman. But not only that, but the emotional connection that they have of the trauma that they've dealt with. And I don't know so much about Dinah's mother if she's had trauma, but if that is one element that goes in there as well, you have, that sort of connection. So I would say for Diana and Dinah, the connection that they will have, if they were to become the world's finest, is legacies to their mother and trying
I
to
like
make
that.
them proud.
I like that. That's actually a really good idea. I never thought of that. That is true. So then we have Vixen, who is like first off, they both are like yeah, as you say, global icons, but it's also like they both have like the attachment to spirituality that really like works. Plus, here's the thing: Diana is like really close with animals. Like she obviously she can talk to animals, and obviously, where do Vixen's powers come from?
Exactly. That is really, I would say that this is probably my top, besides Mera, I would say this is my top, top two
Mhm.
of the team ups because, well, no, it's another one that's coming up that's neck and neck with this one. But the spirituality and the openness of diversity with this um team up would be it would be something profound and something that's actually needed. Again, it does have that spirituality and also focus on animals. And yeah, with Diana, sometimes I don't like her being characterized as a Disney princess, but for this instance, I will let that slide.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And it's like you could kind of have some fun with that. But so, Britt, you should check out. There's a Vixen animated movie that's tied into the Arrowverse, but it's actually really good. You definitely should check that out. I forget
I've
exactly what it's called.
I've seen a couple of clips of it. So I
Watch
know
the
exactly
full
what you're talking
thing.
about.
It's so good.
Really? Well, that's neat. Okay.
It's one of the only good things the Arrowverse ever produced. So
Funny.
So then we have, ironically, Maxima. By the way,
So
again, I love that scene, by the way, where Diana's like, I heard you're a princess. I was born to rule galactic empires. And then Diana looks so bored at her and goes, oh, you were? That's cute.
right. So this is the team up that's neck and neck with um Vixen because yeah, Maxima is a space princess, Diana is an earth princess, but they have two different perspectives of that royalty title. Maxima represents the spoiled princess who is full of pride. She wants, Clark as it's not an innocent, sweet infatuation. She wants Clark to basically make her into a baby factory. And this is where you actually get the eugenics from, with the earlier iterations of Maxima. So I would say that Maxima is supposed to be the opposite, purposely was created to be the opposite of what people would think Diana is. Diana, she is open minded, um, full of heart, and she doesn't care for the ruling, of course. And even with their bond, in a sense, with Cal and how that connects them together, I would say that he's still very much a background. The animosity comes from that, more so one-sided because it's Maxima beefing with, you know, Diana, but it still would be that they learn from each other, and especially Maxima. She learns that, you know, she doesn't need to be obsessive over Cal, and that given that she is ruler in space, and how for her to get respect and stuff, she has to present herself respectable, you know, because the way she was in earlier iterations, it was a parody of what anyone would think Diana is in the worst way possible.
Yeah, exactly. So then we get to another princess, as a matter of fact, Koriand'r, which, oh, about real quick, going back to Maxima. The other thing that would be really funny is Maxima teasing Diana about her obvious crush on Clark, and then Maxima goes, I mean Diana goes, I don't know what you're talking about, and then Maxima goes, yeah, well then it's like, explain how you two are so lovey-dovey and holding hands, referencing the page on the left, because we notice he's holding her hand.
Exactly. As I said, Maxima would definitely have some type of beef with Diana reading, you know, well, she's not so much as reading Clark and Diana's interaction wrong. It's just that she doesn't want to believe it. And Cal and Diana are still playing that, oh, we're not doing what you think we're doing.
Yeah, exactly. So then we have Koriand'r, and they both again have that response. They're also warriors that left a culture. I mean, Diana took some of her culture behind, but it's also unintentionally. They also have the similarity is that they both have been massively sexualized by DC.
True. And the thing is, Starfire and Diana, Koriand'r, I would think that they would be best friends. You know, if you want to go with the mirror origin for Donna, Diana and Donna being the same age as quote unquote twins, basically, you would think that, yeah, Koriand'r would have some type of interaction within all of these decades with Diana. No, Corey,
Yeah.
my bad.
Yeah, and it's like the other thing is like, remember, she is like seen as like the den mom of the Titans, and Diana's seen as like the den mom of the League, so you do have that as well.
Yeah, and being free-spirited princesses, you know, Corey, she is liberated in a sense of she's much more freer than Diana. Like she's very much in control of her sexuality, and she is free of it. She embraces it completely. Diana is more reserved, I would say, about that. She is still free, but more reserved, and I think that perspective also would be interesting to uh explore with them.
Yeah, exactly. So then we get, oh boy, this one's one of my favorites. Diana and Big Barda. Oh boy. So obviously they're both like warrior. Well, they're both technically warriors, but Diana's more of a diplomat. So you do get much like with Diana and Maxima. In fact, if anything, this one is the most similar with Maxima, except Barda has a large amount of respect for Diana and not like any amount of real animosity, I don't think. But it's like I like the idea of like the person raised in essentially hell, teaming up with the princess raised in a paradise. And it's like the other thing is like you could have some scenes where like Barda goes, not all of us were raised as a pampered princess.
Right, that completely opposite way of living, you know, or way of being raised really gives that sort of that tension within their dynamic. And I mean, Diane, it would also be something where they would have it wouldn't be philosophical, I don't think. Well, a little bit. It would be there in the perspective of, you know, how Barda grew up in Diana, but it will mainly be a physical thing, kind of like, you know, that the fight in uh in the animated movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it is them showing off basically the skills. Diana showing off her Amazon skills while Barda is showing how she trained the Furies to be as fierce as they are, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but they will gain that respect. Just like uh Maxima, I would say I would put that on the same line, just a little bit of this sort of a rivalry turn sisterhood.
Oh yeah, exactly. And it's I love that one part in the animated movie where like Wonder Woman goes, "They're very good," and then Barda goes, "They should be. I trained them."
Right. You have certain things like that. Um, and you know, it's I don't really care for the power scaling. I don't. It's really just again that clash of as a woman trained, you know, who is trained better. And you ultimately see that they are basically equals.
Yeah, exactly. And you could have where like at the end of every arc they do like sparring sessions to see who's the better warrior. Like a ongoing like friendly competition is who's the better fighter
Right.
and stuff. So then we get to one of my favorite female characters of all time, Jessica Cruz, Green Lantern. And here's what I was thinking about this. So one of Jessica's things is dealing with self-doubt. And sometimes Diana does deal with that where it's like, hey, Diana wonders, am I making an impact in man's world? And the thing that the theme that this really brings is that Diana and Jessica can mutually build each other up. And it's like, instead of like some female pairings tearing each other down, Diana and Jessica build each other up. It's like Diana gives Jessica more like self-confidence. Well, Jessica basically says, no, you definitely have made a difference. I mean, look at me. I was an agoraphobic that was afraid of my own ring. And look at me now. I'm on the Justice League.
Exactly. I mean, that their relationship to me overall would be that mentee-mentor relationship.
It's very much that. It's even in the Justice League book from Rebirth. This is one of the good parts where it's like that we're like in the context of the issue of the panel on the right is like, so the issue starts off and Jessica and Simon are like being training with Wonder Woman, and then Jessica at the end of it goes, hey, thank you for training us, and then Diana goes, training you, I was training with you and you gave me quite a challenge. And then Jessica like flies out, she's like, can you excuse me for one moment? She flies outside the watchtower screaming, like she's like, oh my god.
Right, yeah. That was a cute moment.
Jessica has the best moments has some of the best DC moments, but that's like that's one of my favorite interactions. It's like Jessica sees Diana as, in many ways, and we can do this if this were ever a book, as a surrogate mom, and it's like Diana sees her as like she could say, Jessica, you already have an inner strength. Look at everything you've accomplished, and you're a Green Lantern where the whole selling point is you have to have the ability to overcome great fear. That's what you do all the time.
Exactly. Diana being basically a voice of reason and moral compass for Jessica would be quite interesting. And Diana, again, her takeaway with Jessica would be how it was with Vanessa and her dedication to helping younger girls reach their potential in that sense.
And that's what Diana's supposed to be. I mean, remember in Superman Wonder Woman when Hesha is like having the karate class with the girls, and I love that scene where she goes, pay attention, Diana, because she's going to give you a lesson that you'll remember for the rest of your life. Isn't that right, Diana? And Diana's like, I just got here. I love that scene.
Right.
But it's like, again, it builds up to Diana's role as to build up women, and like it's essentially her, because when you think about it, go back to the like Day in the Life issue where Diana's traveling throughout the world, like she donates to women's centers, she teaches self-defense classes, a lot of what she does. Plus, you can again have a lot of this be building off of that, because it doesn't have to be like let's say like, oh, they go and fight a creature or something like that. It could be like more rolling with like the themes of like organic feminism, and like essentially like Diana promoting someone's inner strength, because that's again the other thing. It's like it's essentially Jessica's inner truth, if you will, to use Diana's terms.
Exactly.
Which again, if DC actually cared, they could actually do this, which would be very nice. So you have here. So again, going back to what we said before, in conclusion, Diana is really the third wheel of the Trinity, and she really ought to be treated a lot better, as we know. But it's like, the thing is, it's like when you're holding Diana up as a member of the Trinity, because when DC calls characters members of the Trinity, what they mean is that these are the three characters that are the ideals upon which all of our heroes are based, and yet they neglect one continually. It doesn't make any sense.
It never makes sense. And of this time of being, decades, almost 100 years, and again, for Wonder Woman to only have a handful of stories that you can reference and or can say that's decent for her character is very shameful. She again is the embodiment of equality, of respect, of women breaking barriers, of women truly, having that spirit to love themselves and celebrate themselves, be free, be a free spirit. Of all of that, the fact that DC would rather reduce Diana to just this mopey, stick in the mud, for Steve and all of that, no. Or even simplify her as like the warrior woman, the one Trinity member that will kill. No, that is not her at all. She is a complex character. She makes sacrifices. She'll do what she must, to save the world.
World
But
comes
she
first.
isn't right. But she isn't just this one-dimensional character. She is a very complex, multi-layered character.
Exactly. And it's like hopefully one day DC like gets, particularly when Zaslav says Wonder Woman is one of the pillars of DC. You have no excuse at this point, guys.
Exactly. Really show it. Like, don't just say that. We want you to show it.
Particularly when the head of your parent company is telling you prioritize her. Anyway, speaking of prioritizing her, but in the wrong way. And by the way, Britt, this is the greatest title for describing the Trinity book I have ever read. Steve Trevor's Demon Parasite.
Well, I have a lot of nicknames for Trinity,
But here's the thing. Here's what my problem. When I read this preview, I'm like, so he's gonna have Alfred now talk about how awesome Steve is? Are you effing serious?
Yes. And in their publication, Alfred has never met Steve. So this, and also with Steve being a colonel, he is supposed to be like in his 40s or so, and Diana is just like in her early 30s. So you once again are saying that Steve was an old man, going after.
Because that's the thing also on that. If you want to call him a colonel, that takes a while in the military. Like, if you've seen colonels in the military, they're not young guys.
Right. So why is he young? And why is he, the way that they, well, I would say editorial, because editorial lets this story slide. And Tom King, the glazing of Steve is so obnoxious. And to see how Wonder Woman, she's supposed to be a book about women empowerment, and women not being overshadowed by men, but yet her story now is overshadowed by a man.
And not only that,
Mhm.
So what's this book about, Britt? To quote I almost said Steve Trevor. I might as well. To quote Tom King,
It was supposed to be about the daughter of Wonder Woman.
No.
But
What did he say it's about?
oh, it's about daughters and fathers.
So a book called The Daughter of Wonder Woman is about fathers and daughters.
Right. And the only interaction that you've seen Trinity have with Diana is rewriting Perez.
And Diana's like eaten a bunch of times by Cerberus, just for Steve to come out of nowhere and say it's okay. I love how AIPT is even saying the Steve glazing is getting old real fast.
Because it doesn't make any sense. And for you to have an homage to Perez, knowing that in that version, Steve was not a romantic interest. So why would you even reference that?
Not only that, it is hilarious. So they try to homage the Perez cover, but it looks so bland compared to Diana because Trinity has no support like characters.
Exactly. I mean, why would you? The only thing that they care for with Trinity is being an accessory to the Super Sons.
Yeah, exactly. She's not a character. She's a vehicle to get the Super Sons. That's all she is. You notice that the minute they stopped having the Super Sons show up in the Wonder Woman backups, well, the minute they stopped having backups, you notice that as soon as that happened, that's when the book really started to drop. It's almost like people were only buying it for the Super Sons.
Exactly. And even then, the Super Sons does not have that much of a fan base, in that extent.
As we've shown in the sales.
Right. It was definitely just that, thinking that they were fans of Trinity just because she was able to prop up the Super Sons, but they can't even prop up the dynamic themselves because of how distant Damien and John are within their respective stories.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like here's the thing about this book. We'll talk about how it's flopping on the next slide, but it's rightly so. Because here's the thing, Britt. Here's why I hammer that this book is an utter failure and why no one gives a crap about Trinity. They literally market this book in every DC comic book leading up to the release. Literally every book I had here had a full page ad just for Trinity. And you would think that even the speculators would want the first start of a Tom King mini series because normally his mini series do really well. But it's like the minute you do it about this, no one gives a crap about Trinity in any form. Baby, kid, no one cares. No one cares. And that's the thing. I guarantee you it's because you did such a piss poor job with Trinity's first introduction, followed by all the other bullshit you did. So it's like, as soon as you announce, oh, she's getting her own miniseries, everyone's like, oh, you mean the female dog? No, I'm not going to read this crap. And then you read about how it's all about how awesome Steve is when it's supposed to be about, it'd be one thing if this were a series of vignettes of Diana raising her daughter. That would be the way I would do it because the book is called, Britt, what's the title of the book?
Wonder Woman's Annabelle doll.
What's the name of what's the name of the book?
Wonder Woman's daughter.
Exactly. So it's that's the way you do it. But no, it's really about because here's the thing. I'm going to make a assumption, but I'm fairly certain this is right. Tom King doesn't care about Wonder Woman. He really doesn't. He only cares about Steve Trevor. And we have seen this ever since literally ever since the start of this issue, because all of a sudden Diana's back with Steve, even though he was with someone else and Diana was happily single. Then all of a sudden, everything that's about that Diana's about revolves around Steve. Her motivation for having this kid is Steve dying. Her being a depressed sad sack that lets the world go to crap is because Steve died. Her being a toxic parent is because Steve died. And it's her not raising her daughter is because why, Britt?
Because she's a grief baby. And
No, it's because Steve died. That's the thing here. It's like everything is motivated by this one man, and I feel like that's why King wanted to do it. He wanted to push people into liking Steve, but the only thing he has done is made people loathe Steve more. And in fact, here's the funny part, Britt. Before King started on Wonder Woman, I didn't really hate Steve Trevor that much. Steve is now another Lois as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, he's always been that.
There's a reason why I end now all my shows with Steve Trevor belongs in a hydraulic press.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm like, no, I'm sorry. As far as I am concerned, keep this man dead and never reference him again. Keep Steve Trevor dead. Let Diana. This is the thing. Here's what DC needs to do. Because, Britt, what was one of the most successful eras in Wonder Woman's history?
Perez era.
Exactly.
And Azarello.
Well, ignoring
And,
that, the part that everyone acknowledges is the most successful is Perez, right? So,
Right.
and you notice it started to go slowly downhill the minute they started to get really far away from the Perez. It's almost like, hey, here's how you fix Wonder Woman to get people to care about her. Go back to that.
Right.
But it's like, no, you keep
Even
having
if-
to add on BS. And again, the minute you tell me your motivation for Trinity's existing is because Batman and Superman have kids, and I go, oh, so Diana, this is getting back to what you said earlier, Britt, but Diana gets the sloppy seconds of the Trinity. That's literally the reasoning for this.
Yeah.
And notice, Trinity is not dressed like a mini Wonder Woman. Who is she dressed like?
I mean, he even called her Wonder Woman.
I know. And it's like, and where do they hang out the most? Wayne Manor. What? And you notice he keeps bringing in Batman. He keeps bringing in Batman stuff like the wedding. Why is the wedding involved in a book called Daughter of Wonder Woman?
Right. When, again, Diana was not a part of the whole wedding thing. She was played as a temptress. And even still, that story does not supposed to exist. So for you to, again, try to make it seem like they have like this certain closeness, and, you know, even with this contrived stuff with Alfred referencing Steve, you know, that it really does not make any sense to have this. You also have her with her first supposed romance being with Jason Todd. That is definitely a red
What
flag.
the John Byrne is that?
Exactly. It is terrible. I mean, that to write the daughter of Wonder Woman is that was supposed to be something very special. And to have Diana neglected as a character, as who she's supposed to be, and especially her relationship, and if you're going to use Perez, you know, claim that it's the definitive origin and stuff, you know how strong a mother-daughter relationship is. So for you to say,
And
oh,
you
it's
know how,
important,
well, one more thing. Did she have a love interest in that era, Britt? Besides Superman?
no. Well,
Ha!
right.
But anyway, so by the way, so let's talk about this. So Britt, did last issue sell well?
No.
Ooh, let's look. 134. Which, by the way, I'm going to look up how July went because I want to show you how dramatically is this trending down. Top Comics July 2025, because I want to see this, because this is like the most fun. I know I'm a petty asshole, but you know what? When I'm dealing with comics that put me in such an existential quandary, I want to have fun. I really want to have fun with this, because I enjoy when stupid concepts and characters that don't deserve to exist completely like flop out. Like again, for some reason, King has more flops than someone with erectile dysfunction.
And the thing is, what's more to show how rigged it is, and a popularity contest or whatever, for all of these awards, or award nominations, he receives, and well, gladly none of his books, you know, win.
Yeah,
But
we all know that Wonder Woman is the multi-Eisner Award losing series.
Right, but the fact that it's even nominated, that's such a disrespect to books that, truly deserve to be nominated.
So Trinity, the daughter of Wonder Woman, was at 104. That's issue 2, and 134. Oh God, that
So it
that
went
that.
down 30. That is a dramatic.
Now I'm gonna look up June because now I want to see how did issue 1, the premiere issue, do?
I thought it was in the 80s.
Yeah, I'm looking. So far, I'm not saying it. It's in 78.
Oh wow! So it went from 78 to 104 or 109
134 for issue
to
3.
134 for issue 3. That is a very steep
Someone
drop.
needs to get retconned. And even with Tom King's Wonder Woman 85. By the way, looks like Jared and Britt were right again, saying that the only reason why King's Wonder Woman went up to 54 with the other one with the last month's issue was because Semper's back on the book. Ha ha. Looks
But
like no
now
one
it's
gives a but so Britt, I thought Mouseman knows.
knows nothing.
You know what Mouseman knows? Mouseman knows he needs a nose job. That's what he knows.
No, he needs a new hairstyle because that preview is ugly.
The shaved like mohawk thing, and I'm like, why is he also in like that creepy ass robe?
He looks like he stinks. Like he looks like he smells like a rodent. That is awful. That is an awful design. I'm sorry, it is.
It really is, and not only that, Trinity also has a really awful design. Like that is the most generic costume I've ever seen for Wonder Woman.
I mean, she is generic given who her father is.
Yeah, arguably the most generic. Okay, blue-eyed, blonde-haired white soldier.
Yeah.
Most generic character that they can't even agree on which military branch Steve is in, because before the King run, he was in the Navy. Now he's apparently transferred to the U.S. Marine Corps.
And now just straight up, I guess, in the military.
Well, here's the thing. In the new 52, he was Air Force. Then he's Navy. Then he's Marine, or then at one point he'll be Army. And I'm like, what?
They don't know how to make Steve work.
Here's what you do. Again, take Steve, take him away from Diana because he doesn't work with Diana's world. Have an Argus book where it's him, Rick Flag, maybe a descendant of Rock, and then you can have like them doing a book about called New 52 had this fantastic book, Britt, called Men of War, and what it was essentially the Easy Company books from like World War II, but done in modern warfare. So it's like, how do like counterterrorism operations change if the terrorists are trying to get superpowers? Isn't that sound like a very interesting idea for a book, Britt?
Right, and I think DC did try to have a New 52 August book.
They
but
did.
It flopped.
Well, it's because again, no one gives a crap. That's the problem. Steve Trevor's a lot like Lois in that he needs Wonder Woman because otherwise he has zero purpose as a character, just like Lois.
Exactly. Right.
So in many ways, when people say that Steve is Diana's Lois, they are right, and that in terms of that.
In the worst ways.
In the very worst ways, yeah, exactly. But I'm like, ultimately at this point, so where this stands is like Trinity is obviously royally flopping. There is a possibility that when this book, that like with Trinity, if it keeps dropping this much, it will fall out of the 200.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like if it keeps dropping like this in 3-ish, if it keeps this extreme of a drop, because it's like, yeah, exactly. Because if it keeps dropping by 30, it will fall out. And then it's like, yeah, looks like that way. It's like, we can tell DC, okay, so wait a minute. So you tried Trinity. Her miniseries royally flopped. What are you talking about? No one gives a crap. And before they say, well, people like her, we see a lot of us on social media. When you block anyone that gives you like any amount of respectful criticism, of course it's going to look like everyone likes what you're doing.
Exactly.
That's the other thing. It's like if King says, oh, people love what I'm doing. Yeah, because you block everyone.
Yeah, I believe on his Instagram, he actually has his comments set on if you're following him. So obviously, if you're following him, you're a fan, and that is all he care about is having um positive comments.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of like actually listening to the fan base and listening to their like some fans a-holes? Yes, of course. Well, and Britt and I acknowledge that because we deal with that as well. But it's like you can't block anyone that like says, "Hey, listen, can you not maybe you should focus less on Steve Trevor and more about writing Wonder Woman. You're not writing Steve, you're writing Diana. Focus on the character. That's the name of the book. If you block someone for that, I'm sorry that you are just a egotistical maniac. That's what you are. I'm sorry that your ego is not being stroked by people.
With all that, King and others are guaranteed to turn into toddlers having a tantrum.
But they don't like me. Mommy, please block them for me. I'm just like, guys, it's like if you didn't want to get criticism, you shouldn't have like taken a job in comic books where people have an attachment to these characters like Britt and I. Britt may deny that she has an attachment to these characters, but no, don't lie, lady. Don't lie to the nice people at home. You know you have an attachment to these characters, but
My
it's
attachment is strained. Let's say that.
No. Let's not lie to the nice people at home, lady. But if you didn't, you wouldn't have violent reactions whenever King posts something. But anyway, but it's like when you have fans, and it's kind of funny. The DC documentary talked about this. He's like, that's why fans are so passionate about these things because they each have a personal interaction with these characters and personal, meaningful like feeling with these characters. So when you discount them and say, well, you're just toxic fans, you just don't get it. And I'm like, no, you're just a crappy writer. To quote my friend Max Priestley, Tom King writes for stupid people that want to believe they're smart. Because if you notice, Britt, the people that defend his books are the ones that are like, you just don't get it.
Yeah, saying you don't get it to the simplest, most childish of writing. And I mean, we clearly see it, how terrible it is. Yeah, there's nothing to not get. We don't want to get it. That's the problem.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, let me put it this way: we do understand it. It's whenever I see people praising his run, I say, "How much Wonder Woman have you read?" 9 times out of 10, they'll say, "Oh, not that much," and I go, "Yeah, sit down."
Exactly.
Well,
Sit down.
Sit down. The adults are talking, not like you want to like suck up to Tom King so he'll like your social media posts. Oh, or maybe he'll come on your podcast. That's why. And it's like, I'm sorry, if you have to lie to your audience about something being good just so a creative will acknowledge you, I'm sorry, you have problems, bro.
Exactly. That is an issue. You need to be transparent with all the fans. And if they can't take valid criticism, yeah, it is. Why are you writing this? Why must it be that fans just eat, whatever you put down? And it can be like,
you had a writer like Ram V, who's when Ram V was on Detective. By the way, it was one of the most confusing runs ever. But but he says, "Oh, I don't write for the fans. I write for myself."
I mean, he was being transparent. So
yeah, I'm like, okay. I mean, like this way, Ram V is also one of those. Ram V respects the character, so that's why I kind of excuse him. I'm like, okay, if you're writing for yourself, but you're still writing consistently with the characters, okay, I can buy that. But it's like when you do what King does, I'm sorry, I don't care. Let me put it this way. Stop telling people that you know the comics. That's like me walking into a corporate office and saying, "I'm in charge. I'm in charge now." That's what that's like. If you have to keep telling people you know comics, you don't know comics.
True. I mean, it's just a means of validation, and knowing the fact that Gunn's wife called King the encyclopedia for DC, but so much is,
That's very
being
concerning.
twisted, and you've gotten a lot wrong, with this. It is a bunch of red flags.
I love when Frank Miller called out Tom King when King was talking about how much he like puts a lot of himself into Batman, and then Frank Miller goes, "You're not supposed to," publicly on a panel, by the way. That's not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to write the way Batman would act, not the way you would act.
Well, that is self-insertion. I mean, Tom King's Batman run was definitely a self-insertion
Oh, but by
for
the way, do you
something
know how King responded? He put a
mm-mm,
parody of Frank Miller in the book.
petty, just
Yeah.
petty.
This is also the guy that in the Master Miracle book, he had like Mr. Miracle actually, it wasn't Mr. Miracle book. It was the crap Adam Strange book. He had like Adam Strange signing books, and then it's like he was basically making a parody of everyone that calls him a war criminal. And he had someone come up and say, "You're a war criminal. You're horrible."
So another self-insertion.
Yeah, exactly. He self-inserts him into everything. The minute he says, "I put a lot of myself in these characters," that's the cue to say you're off the book.
Right. And that is why we're stuck with Steve, because he did say that he likes Steve being in the military. So yeah, that's another self-insertion.
That's the other thing. If I were to write Wonder Woman, I would make Steve the most inept person ever. He's constantly tripping. He's like the most clumsy guy ever. Like he's like Clark Kent, but even more extreme. He's dorky, but he's like the type of person that no one wants to be around. Like I would completely crap on Steve Trevor.
So it'd be extra petty.
Oh yeah. And I would say, and then I would have Diana say, Steve, you're not king of anything.
Wow.
I told you, never go to war with me. You will lose. That's just all you got to do. And it's like, remember, DC, the fans have a hashtag campaign to get you kicked off, to get King kicked off the book. That should tell you something. Anyway, I think that's a good place to leave it on that note. But yeah, so Britt, do you have any stories you want to tease us with?
Right. So I've been working on a lot of one-shots. Most of them are within, uh, I would say about 95% done. So that will be posted the within the following week. Then again, getting ready for the holidays and stuff. So of course have that with Shelter Story 1. We of course are talking about so many more stories, within our universe. And also just other stories that I have yet to complete, but it's only like one chapter left, like Awakened Desires or Twist of Fate. Those stories are almost the last chapters of those stories are almost complete with open-ended endings, because they will end up with part 2 for those stories. And then I will of course share ideas of another story with for Shelterverse with Jared later. But yeah, I am so proud of our verse because it just continues to grow. And as I said earlier, Clark and Diana's relationship is multifaceted. So you can place them in so many different scenarios. And the story feels very unique, even if it does, have them with a happy ending or they remain friends or something like that. It's still showcasing their relationship that can be unique. And that's pretty much what we want for Wonder Woman and Superman, in the fact that they are these vastly incredible characters. So if DC won't give it to us, we will continue to create, those stories that not only we enjoy, but also listening to fellow fans and trying to give that, you know, satisfaction. So yeah, it does take time for us to nail down these ideas and basically how to form, the story to be compelling as fanfic, but it's very enjoyable and it's very fun to be writing these stories, and we'll share them soon.
Exactly. And also in the description, I'm going to put the signups for my comic, Athena, the Goddess of Thunder. launching in October. Yes, Jared wrote a comic, and it's very heavily like Wonder Woman based, and obviously Superman, Wonder Woman, but it's my tribute to this amazing character that I adore. Obviously, we just spent like 2 hours talking about her. And it's like, again, as Britt said, hey, if DC is not going to give us compelling stories about these characters, we'll do our own. There you go. That's our responsibility as fans, because I'll leave you with this. What I always say is, if DC is not going to protect the integrity of these characters, it is the duty of the fan base to do so. That will always be that's part of being a fan. Anyway, stay heroic, everyone. Remember, Lois Lane is Lois Lane, and Steve Trevor belongs in a frickin' hydraulic press set to maximum. Zois and Maxibat for life. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.